The cafe lights shimmered like scattered fireflies, bouncing off the rain-speckled windows. Adrian Cole straightened his collar, glanced at his watch for the 5th time, and sighed. He wasn't the type to do blind dates. In fact, the word dating hadn't crossed his life in years, not since his company devoured his time, his trust, and most of his heart. But his best friend Liam had insisted. One dinner, man, you'll thank me later. She's sweet, funny, and apparently loves bad coffee. Just show up. So here he was, at Café Laura, the place where first meetings felt like stories waiting to happen. He ordered an Americano and checked the entrance again. That's when she walked in. A girl in a cream trench coat, drenched from the drizzle outside. Her hair framed her face in soft waves, and her eyes, bright, searching, met his for just a second before she smiled uncertainly. "Adrian," she asked. Her voice was soft but sure, like a melody that knew its tune. "Yes," he replied, standing up quickly. "You must be Ella," she said. "Sorry, I'm a little late. Traffic." "No worries," he said, offering her a seat. "I just got here too." He lied. He'd been there 30 minutes early. As she sat down, he couldn't help but notice something about her, something quietly captivating. She didn't have the air of someone trying to impress. There was a calm grace, a gentle warmth that drew him in. They talked about music, cities they wished to visit, terrible movies, and the best comfort foods. Her laughter came easily, lighting up the dull corners of the cafe. But every so often, he noticed her watching him closely, as if measuring something unseen. When he mentioned his work, owning a tech firm that funded scholarships for underprivileged kids, her eyes softened even more. "You help a lot of people," she murmured. He shrugged. "I try. I was one of those kids once. Guess I just know how it feels." For a moment, she looked down, fidgeting with her napkin. "That's amazing, really." There was a pause, one that carried weight, like something unsaid hanging between them. "So, Ella," he said, leaning in. "How did Liam convince you into this blind date?" Her expression flickered. "Oh, Liam, yes, my friend. He said he arranged this." Her lips parted slightly, confusion shadowing her features for a heartbeat. But then she smiled, a sad, almost bittersweet smile. "Right, Liam," she said softly. "He must have thought this would be good." Adrian chuckled. "He thinks I've forgotten how to talk to people outside a boardroom." "You're doing fine," she said gently. An hour passed like a whisper. Dessert came and went, and so did the rain outside. Adrian found himself unexpectedly at ease, even happy. There was something about Ella, something grounded and kind that made him forget the noise of the world. But when the waiter brought the bill, Ella's demeanor changed. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her bag. "Don't worry, I've got this," Adrian said with a smile. "No, please," she said quickly. "Let me." He shook his head. "Come on, it's just coffee." She hesitated, then nodded, her voice quiet. "Okay, thank you for this, for tonight. It was nice," he admitted. "I'd like to do this again." That's when she looked at him. Really looked at him, with eyes that suddenly glistened with something deeper. "I don't think we'll see each other again," she whispered. He frowned. "What do you mean?" She rose slowly from her chair. "Because I'm not really here for a blind date." He blinked. "You're not." She shook her head, her voice trembling now, but steady enough to shatter him. "I'm just here to say thank you." And before he could ask what that meant, she placed a folded envelope on the table and walked away, leaving the scent of rain and mystery behind. Adrian sat frozen. The cafe, moments ago filled with laughter, now felt hollow. He picked up the envelope, his heart thudding. Inside was a single letter written in delicate handwriting. "Greater than dear Mr. Cole, you don't know me, but you changed my life. When I was 17, your scholarship saved me. I was homeless after my mother passed away. Because of you, I went to college, got my degree, and found my way again. I never thought I'd get to thank you in person, until now. I didn't mean to deceive you. I just wanted you to know the difference you made. Ella M." Adrian stared at the words, his pulse loud in his ears. Ella, the name he'd seen on a scholarship form years ago. The girl who'd written, "One day, I'll make someone else's life better the way you made mine." He stood abruptly, scanning the cafe, but she was gone, vanished into the rain. And for the first time in years, Adrian felt something stirring in him, a warmth he thought he'd long buried. Because somehow, in that brief hour, a stranger had reminded him why he'd started it all. But as he slipped the letter into his coat pocket, a strange thought hit him. She'd said they wouldn't see each other again. Why? Was it just shyness, or was there something she wasn't telling him? Adrian didn't know yet, but one thing was certain. He was going to find her. And this time, not for business, not for charity, but because something about Ella felt like a story unfinished. The next morning, Adrian couldn't focus on a single meeting. His board members were talking numbers and expansion plans, but all he could see was her face, Ella's bittersweet smile as she whispered thank you. That letter, those words, they echoed in his chest like a quiet storm. He searched his records for her file, old scholarship data, university partnerships, anything. But the Ella M file was thin, almost erased. The contact info led to a now-defunct email address, the phone number no longer in service. Liam, when confronted, only looked confused. Blind date? What blind date? I didn't set anything up this week, man. Adrian froze. Wait, what? I swear, Liam said, laughing nervously. I didn't. Maybe she found you on her own. That meant she'd gone through the trouble of pretending it was a setup, just to thank him. But why disappear after that? For 3 days, he thought about it endlessly, replaying their conversation, her nervous glances, the faint sadness in her voice. Something didn't add up. Finally, he decided to find out. Using the Scholarship Foundation's old network, he traced Ella's file to an organization, a small community center in Eastbridge. When he called, the receptionist paused. Ella Martinez, she said softly. Yes, she used to volunteer here, but she's been unwell. Adrian's grip on the phone tightened. Unwell? How bad? I'm not supposed to share details, sir. But she's been in the hospital lately. She didn't want anyone to know. That night, Adrian drove to the hospital in a storm. He didn't know what he'd say, or even if she'd want to see him, but he had to try. When he reached her room, she was awake, sitting by the window, watching the rain. She looked paler than before, thinner, but when she turned and saw him, her eyes widened in disbelief. Adrian, he smiled faintly. So, you didn't expect me to actually find you. Her lips parted, a mix of surprise and embarrassment washing over her. You weren't supposed to. Yeah, well, I'm bad at following directions, he said softly. She looked away, her voice small. You shouldn't have come. Why? He asked gently, pulling a chair beside her bed. Because you're sick. She flinched. You know. Not everything, he said. But I know enough to worry. A long silence hung between them, filled only by the patter of rain on the glass. Finally, she spoke. It's leukemia. It came back. The doctors say there's treatment, but I don't have family anymore, and I can't afford it. So, I decided to spend whatever time I had left doing something that mattered, helping others. Saying thank you. Adrian's chest tightened. Ella, I didn't want pity, she said quickly. You already gave me so much. That scholarship, it wasn't just money. It was hope. I didn't want you to see me like this. I just wanted you to know I'm grateful. He reached for her hand. You think gratitude is a one-time thing. You gave me something too. She frowned softly. What could I possibly give you? He smiled faintly. A reason to remember why I started helping people. Somewhere along the line, I lost that. You brought it back. Her eyes welled up, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Weeks passed. Adrian visited often. Sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes flowers, sometimes just silence and presence. He arranged her treatments quietly, never mentioning it was his doing. When she found out, she tried to protest, but he only said, you once said you'd make someone else's life better. Let me help you do that, starting with yours. Slowly, her health began to improve. Color returned to her cheeks, laughter to her lips. They began walking through the hospital garden together. Talking, teasing, dreaming. One day, as they sat under the oak tree, she looked at him and smiled. You know, I used to think thank yous were the end of stories. And now, he asked, now I think they can be beginnings. Adrian reached over, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then maybe this is ours. Her smile trembled, but her eyes shone. You really think so? He nodded. I don't know where it leads, but I'd like to find out, with you. And for the first time since that night in the cafe, she didn't walk away. Months later, when she was discharged, Adrian returned to Café Laura with her. They sat at the same table, the same rain tapping against the glass, but everything felt new. She looked at him with that same soft smile and whispered, "Thank you." He chuckled. "You already said that once." She leaned closer. "Then let me say it again. This time, for staying." And as the city lights glowed around them, Adrian realized something rare and beautiful. Sometimes, the most unexpected meetings aren't coincidences at all. Sometimes, they're thank yous that fate disguises as beginnings.